I say show some pity.
They should not be in the city.
Our very special guest, Chris Green of the Animal Legal Defense Fund. Chris, you have breaking news on the carriage horses. Tell us why you held a news conference on the steps of New York City Hall. And what's the big news that you say you found?
Well, on October 8th, we got a bunch of records that showed that complainants alleged there were at least a dozen hit and runs involving New York carriage horse drivers in the last 5 years. And there were 25 new accidents involving children being run over, having head injuries, drivers being thrown onto the pavement and found unresponsive. A lot of this had not been reported before, so we decided it was important enough to hold a press conference to release these police reports to the general media rather than wait for a full report to be completed.
Donnie Moss of Vereturn.net, what's your reaction to these new allegations?
Look, they're not surprising at all. If there aren't pedestrians nearby to take images and send them to the community groups, then sometimes these accidents are not reported. So these hit and runs and these other accidents which have sent people to the hospital don't come as a surprise at all, Jane.
Let me read you what the Teamsters Local 553, the union representing horse carriage drivers, has to say about this. They question the records. As specifically, they said the approximate 14 hit and run incidents alleged are just accusations, and said no drivers were charged. Any accidents represent only a small fraction of the overall vehicular accidents. So, quick response. What's your response to that?
I've got two responses. One, I don't think that most advocates and most New Yorkers would agree that any accidents involving horses being harmed are acceptable. Just because it's a small percent. And this is only reporting what we got in this batch of police reports. There may be many more. As far as to the fact that they're only allegations, that's what a police report is. It's a snapshot of what occurred on the ground, and there not being prosecutions. The whole point of a hit and run is that the driver ran away, so it's unlikely that there'd be a prosecution. The whole point is that they fled the scene of an accident. Carriage horses have no say in the matter. They're being forced to perform and forced to work under these, hot, terrible, cold conditions, and be at risk of being hit by ambulances, other vehicles, as we've seen in these reports. And I think if we were to hear that there was some human trafficking ring that was making pedicab drivers work against their will, everyone would be up in arms freaking out. I don't see there any difference with carriage horses. So
even if there were no cars in the park, horses spook there too, and there have been several incidents in the past few years in which spooked horses have run wildly through the park.
Let me say this to the city council and to the mayor. First of all, Mayor de Blasio, I was thrilled when you made it part of your campaign to promise to end the carriage horse industry. You went on the Jon Stewart show and you said the time has come. This is antiquated.
In a humane society, I really believe this, horses do not belong in the middle of the traffic of New York City. They don't belong in an urban environment like this. It's not safe for them. It's just it's not fair when you think about what their lives should be and what our society is like.
And I agreed with you 100%. Now, I know you are dealing with politicians, and I know it's difficult, but this was a campaign promise, and I think that you should stick to it. To the city council, if somebody suggested today, let's bring a bunch of carriage horses in, and let's have carriage horses, and there were not carriage horses, everybody would say, you're absolutely out of your mind. It's 2014. We've got cars. We've got bicycles. We've got all sorts of modes of transportation. Why do you need carriage horses? What's the point? Just because it's tradition does not justify it. I happen to see these carriage horses every single day. They do not look happy. In the wintertime, they are there. Sometimes, they look cold. Sometimes they just look morose. The time has come to let these animals go to sanctuary. There are sanctuaries willing to take these animals. The drivers we can come up with a political solution so that they get other jobs. This is not against the drivers. The drivers are decent people who just want to make a living. It's a big city. There's plenty for them to do.
I would just say that these records show that carriage horses aren't safe for anybody. You've got everyone being injured in these reports, from the drivers themselves, passengers, law enforcement, children, bicyclists, pedestrians, not the least of which the horses themselves. Carriage horses are not safe for anybody.
Horses are flight animals, Jane. When they spook and bolt through the streets of New York, whether it's in the city or in the park, they become weapons. There's no place for them in modern day New York. Tradition is no excuse for the inhumane treatment of animals.